Good morning, everyone. Holly Lombardo, Director of the NRTF here. I am so delighted to introduce to you Stella Duffy, OBE. She is an award-winning writer and theatre maker. Stella regularly contributes to The Guardian on issues of inclusion and equality in the arts sector. She was awarded an OBE for services to the arts in 2016 and is, of course, best known for founding and directing the Fun Palaces campaign, which we all know supports local people to co-create community events using creative skill sharing as a catalyst for community connection. Stella, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Thank you. Is this it? Am I on now?
Go.
I can mostly see you. What do I do for them to see me? Nothing? I'll just trust that this is going to happen, right?
Everyone can see you.
Okay, good, brilliant. Okay, so good morning, everybody. I am, as Holly said, Stella Duffy, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about me, but I don't feel like my job is who I am, and I particularly don't feel like that this year. And I've never really felt like that. And partly that's because I'm a working class girl from a South London council estate whose family moved to a small rural timber town in the central volcanic plateau of the North Island of Aotearoa, New Zealand, when I was 5 years old. And I grew up in a town that was 70% Maori and Polynesian. And the traditional Māoritanga way of introducing oneself would not be to say, "Hi, I'm Stella Duffy, I've got an OBE, I've written 17 novels, blah, blah, blah," because that's like, yeah, whatever. What we would do to introduce ourselves is a thing called a mihi. And a mihi talks about our place, our land. And in terms of the work that libraries do, in terms of the work that the National Rural Touring Forum do, I think a mihi is a lovely way to introduce ourselves. So I'm going to share it with you. And if we were in a live room, I would ask you to do this to the person beside you, to share with them. But anyway, here goes. Ko Waikato, ko Thames, na awa. So the Waikato, the River Waikato, and the River Thames are my rivers. Ko Pohataroa, ko Shooters Hill, ngā monga, my mountains. Pohataroa, which is the mountain near Tokoroa where I grew up, and Shooters Hill, which is the hill in southeast London, where our estate and village was closest to. Ko Shore Savile Southern Cross, Te Waka. My family got from South London to Aotearoa, New Zealand on the Shore Savile Southern Cross ship. Ko Stella Duffy Taka Ingoa. My name is Stella Duffy. And in a traditional mihi, you would do the whole of your ancestry. You would do your father's side, your mother's side, and you would talk about your land, your mountain, your river, before you said what you'd done in your life. And you would place yourself in the land as a way of placing ourselves. So I would ask you now to take a moment and think of the river or the sea, perhaps if you're from a coastal place, that is the closest place to you. And think of the hill or the mountain. And believe me, I've done this in the fens, and people have talked about tiny pits that matters to you as a way of grounding ourselves, because I know that you're all out there and I trust that you're all out there, but I can't see you and you can see me, and I'm in my room. And I want us to feel a sense of perhaps being in tune with each other, because the work we are doing and the work we are trying to make, despite it all, is huge. So just think to yourself, what is your mountain? What is your river? And how are you? Seriously, how are you? Is a question that people are asking each other at the moment. We're a bit scared, I think, particularly in the arts. Those of you who heard from the Cultural Recovery Fund yesterday, if you heard great news, I'm delighted for you. If you heard bad news, please understand that you are not forgotten. I know it might have felt like that yesterday with some of the celebration, but you are not forgotten. Many of us in this work are hanging on to you. I feel quite tearful because I know how hard this has been for so many of us this year, and not just because of our work in the arts, but because of our work in community. And that's what the National Oratorian Forum's work is about, and that's what libraries' work is always about. It's about community. It's why I'm here, because we founded, Sarah Jane Rawlings and I, Fun Palaces 8 years ago, out of our absolute fed upness with our decades, our joint decades, her 25 years and my 30 years in theatre and performing arts, and our complete just infuriatedness with the lip service the arts have often given to community, to genuinely handing over to community. And what we've seen is the people who've taken up Fun Palaces have really benefited from our saying, of course you can take this on, of course you can do it. And among the people who've mostly taken it on have been the libraries. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Fun Palaces and then a bit more about how libraries have shown up as working with us. But I'm genuine about the how are you. Maybe you're caring for somebody. Maybe you're caring for an elderly relative, for children, for someone who's ill. Maybe you've been ill yourself this year. Maybe you're ill with something else. I've had cancer twice myself, so I really do understand that the fears that are going on while we've got COVID going on. Maybe everything is hard, not just our work. And I want to take this moment. Seriously, if we were in a room, I would be reaching out to people in the front row and asking them to reach the people behind them, to reach out and say, this is the only way we can touch each other at the moment. And look how big my hands get when I get close to the screen. But this touching each other is important. The sharing with each other still matters. And I know that loads of us are just hungry to be in a room and performing and sharing and connecting live with people. But we've got this, and let's use this while we can, as best we can. So that's the mental health bit. And I know that there's a mental health day in a couple of days and a couple of sessions, but mental health is attached to everything. We cannot keep it separately. Okay, now I'm going to share my screen with you. Fingers crossed that bit works. And we're going to go into my presentation proper. Share screen. There it is. Share. Click the share button. There you go. Zoom working. How marvelous. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, Fun Palaces is about sharing skills, connecting communities and creating tiny revolutions. And I don't expect you all to know. We, for the past 8 years, as I said, have maintained ourselves as a tiny organisation intentionally. Everyone who works for Fun Palaces works just 2 days a week. We're all freelancers. Every single one of us is freelance. So to the freelancers out there, oh my God, I feel your pain. Honestly, I know what this is like, and I know the huge privilege I've had of knowing I had at least 2 days work a week because everything else has been cancelled this year. Absolutely everything. What we do is we support communities to co-create together. And by supporting communities, I'm going to turn myself off because I can see myself in the corner and that's really weird. By supporting communities, what I mean is genuinely community leadership. We're not talking about arts leadership of creativity. We are talking about anyone's leadership of creativity. And again, I say this as somebody who's worked in the arts. I've never had a proper job. I've never had a salary job. I've been a freelancer since I was 18 and I'm 58 next March. So nearly 40 years of working in this way. And yet, I still know that we in the arts haven't really handed over as much as we could to communities. So we believe in the genius of everyone. We believe that anyone could and should be supported to lead in their local community. We have an annual weekend of action and it's always the first weekend in October. We're about local people leading local culture, believing that the people in any one locality are the best people to lead their culture. And the way we do that is we suggest that people share skills. And now, if we were in a live room, I would ask you to turn to the person beside you and tell them your secret skill. So you can tell me on screen, or you can tell us in the YouTube chat. Your secret skill is not the thing that you do for your job. It's not like me saying I'll teach a creative writing workshop. It's not like me running a theatre directing workshop, right? Because those are my jobs. They were before the freelance work went. what it's like is me going, oh, you know what, I love yoga, and I've actually just qualified as a yoga teacher this year. I have just qualified as a yoga teacher this year. And so therefore the secret skill that I would share at a fun palace would be something I'm passionate about and isn't necessarily my career. So because of that, I would like to ask you now, for those of you who are able, stand up. And those of you who are not able to stand up, I am trusting that you are doing this, people. Let's bond by you giving it a go. Those of you who are not able to stand up, sit as upright in your chair as possible. Because when you, I think you can see this, when you open this part of yourself to the world, this part takes in the oxygen. The oxygen goes to your brain. You are more clever. And stretch sideways, to take in all of the people who are doing this together. Stretch diagonally to bring in those of us who don't know each other from the north and the south. Stretch the other way diagonally to bring in those of us who don't know each other from the east and the west. Stretch backwards to remember that we do this work standing on the shoulders of people who have come before us. All those amazing people who worked in participation and community generations back, including our very own Joan Littlewood in the 1930s, but way back before that. And then bring it forward to know that we only do this work for now, and we have to pass it on to all those other generations who are going to make it even better than us. So thank you. Thank you to those of us who joined, those of you who joined in. I love it if you did. I'm trusting that at least 5% of you did. Since 2014, there have been 2,117 fun palaces, actual fun palaces and actual places made by live people. This map here is our map from this year, and you'll see that about half of them are yellow dots. There was also ones in Athens and Denmark and Norway and Aotearoa, New Zealand and Canada and France, anyway, some other places, but primarily Britain, because that's where we are. The yellow ones are digital ones, because a lot of people did stuff online this year, but they still did it live, and they did it live like this, and they did it so they could see the other people in the Zoom with them, and they ran little workshops, and some of them were pre-recorded, but lots of them were live. And then the red ones are where people actually made live events. They did them socially distanced. Instead of doing them with 3,000 people like Exeter Library has had 2 years in a row, maybe even 3 years now, they did them with 3 people or 4 people. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is what we do. Every place matters, every person matters. We support anyone to lead locally. That includes people who have never led locally before. And a lot of our work is in supporting people to step up, who want to step up, but generally culture doesn't help them to do so. This is our film. It's 4 minutes long, and it's the makers of 2019 talking about what it's like for them. Fun palaces are made by local people sharing skills with their neighbours, creating tiny revolutions of connection. Since 2014, there have been 1,758 community fun palaces, with over 500,000 people taking part. We asked the makers what fun palaces mean to them and why they join in year after year.
We had a fun palace last year, and just about every day since, we've had a fun palace here. Thank you so much for kickstarting all of our community involvement. It's a great opportunity to have fun. It's where the whole community can come together, maybe you be adult, children, family, on your own, and come together and you do something maybe creative that you've not done before, and it's time to have a cup of tea and a chat.
Lots of different people come together, lots of different organisations, but we all kind of feel like we're one unit, and it's a really positive and relaxed space.
The Fun Palace changes year on year because new people ask to be part of it, and we want as many people as possible to be part of it that way. And every year, I would say, it perhaps has something to say about who we are as a city.
Over the 4 years that we've been doing it, we've seen that solidify that connection and confidence grow within all of us as Fun Palace makers.
It just ignites passions in people that they can then follow up, either as a study or as an interest.
There is something about the connections that Fun Palace brings together, and the barriers it breaks down, actually, that just feels like something that should be happening and should be happening everywhere.
I think you get to know more people. It's positive. It's a positive vibe in the community. That's what I think. It's quite nice.
I've just enjoyed meeting the people and
showing them what I can do, sort of thing. And, yeah, I think they enjoyed seeing it.
Because James and I both, over 4 years ago, took our own children to fun palaces, and then we got together and said, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could have a fun palace in Sturchley? And we haven't looked back since.
It's really sort of embedded me further in my local community and made me reach out to lots of different people that I wouldn't have otherwise spoken to, so it's really wonderful.
The most valuable part is teaching my kids how to volunteer, how to give free time to the community.
Yeah, it's been beautiful, been clear, placards, getting people to think politically, and just about sharing what they love and what they want to change about the world.
In one part of the town here, we have some of the largest social disadvantage in the country. And in the other half, we've got some of the richest people in the country. We brought them all together.
It's a very good opportunity to communicate with people and to introduce them to our culture, to Syrian culture. I know I learned a lot about other culture as well.
People are looking forward for the next year, every time we do it.
I'm really proud of it.
I love seeing that when people start chatting to each other and then they might say, do you want to go to something? No, well, I'll come with you next time. That is what it's all about, community working together.
It's just so worthwhile. You're part of something bigger than yourself.
Make a Fun Palace in 2020 on the 3rd and 4th of October. Find out more at funpalaces.co.uk.
Okay, so that's enough of that, because that was last year's film and we're currently making the new one. Ellen, I can see that there's something in the chat, but if I show it to everybody, it'll be on my screen. And maybe you're saying, Stella, shut up, go away now. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take another 2 minutes, I think. This is some stats about us, but just look at the pictures, right? These are how people come together. But now look at the new, oh, look at this lovely one. This quote is actually from Eltham Library this year. The Fun Palaces ethos is very much the library ethos. This is the reason we come together, because libraries, and I say this as a theatre maker, people, theatre by its nature looks in. It looks in at the stage. Some theatres are a lot better at this. They're a lot better at looking out at the community. But because we are presaging the art form, the play, we are still looking in. Libraries, by their actual nature, look out. They cannot but look out to community. And that's why libraries are so amazing as partners for any art form. You'll see that in 2019, Fun Palaces largely took place in libraries. This year, we had about 30% of Fun Palaces were in libraries. Why they're great partners? Because the library building is often part of the community, because libraries are located in places where the people go, because so many people find the library a place they feel brave about going into, if not the theatre or the gallery or the museum. And that's not because theatres, galleries and museums aren't trying, it's just because those art forms have often excluded people in the past, and those of us who are working in them now are having to do a whole lot of work undoing what was done in the past. Why are they good partners for Fun Palaces in terms of people? I think part of it is because the way that library staff are trained within their training to communicate. It's back to the art form thing. They're not trained in the art form, they are trained in the communication with other human beings. Now, at the core of it, as a theatre maker, of course theatre is about connection, but that quite often gets missed when we're talking about the play, okay? I say this as a playwright, all right? I'm not saying theatre's shite. What I'm saying is that those of us who are working and making theatre more accessible have a bit more work to do than the average library. Libraries know that not everyone is online. This is so important, particularly as we're heading into more local lockdowns. Libraries have done phenomenal work this year in engaging the people who are not always online. And the reason they know they're not always online is because libraries are the places where many people, the 5 million that the Office of National Statistics said in 2018 have never used the internet. And the 7 million who rarely use it, libraries are the place where they use it. So we can trust that libraries know how to reach the communities that may not be reaching us online. Finally, this is what happened this year. I love this photo because this is from a library and this is two masked people, some masked people in the background. They're still connecting, they're still co-creating, they're just doing it in a different manner. We can still do this work. This work might be harder and it might be tougher and it's certainly more tiring, but we can definitely still do this. Okay, that's me. I'm done. That's slightly over time. I'm really sorry, but thank you. I'm going to stop the share. Thank you all very much for staying with me. I hope some of you stretched. I hope some of you did a bit of this. I hope you felt that I am concerned personally for your mental health, for your stability, and for our arts keeping going. So this year, try not to annihilate yourself on behalf of keeping it going. Save a little back. We don't know how long this is going to go on. We want to keep taking care of each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stella. My name's Ellen Bergen and I'm the tech manager of the National Rural Touring Forum conference this year. And it's actually my fault that we're running over a bit today. So please bear with us. Thank you so much, Stella, for joining us. My rivers are the Yarra River in Melbourne and the River Thames. So thank you so much. I love that grounding. We're now going to go straight over to our panel opening with Sue Williamson from the Arts Council chat. If you just bear with us and keep an eye on your Attendify feed, if you just follow along to the next session that is supposed to be on, you will find